Hi, I'm Soraya Mia, and you're tuned in to AWANI Tonight. More tests needed to determine cause of death of teen who passed away 18 days after his first vaccine dose. And Russia seizes largest nuclear power plant in Europe. That's coming up. Out of more than 32,000 new COVID cases reported yesterday, 231 were in categories 3, 4, and 5. The majority of the 99% cases showed only mild symptoms. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said of the 231 cases in these categories, 60 were unvaccinated or have yet to complete vaccination, while 115 cases are fully vaccinated. On the intensive care unit bed usage, Dr. Noor Hisham said 6 states recorded bed utilization of more than 50%, which are in Putrajaya with 83%, Kelantan 60%, and Kuala Lumpur 58%. Meanwhile, Health Minister Khairy says more tests must be done to determine the cause of the death of teenager Ravnish Kumar. The 13-year-old died 18 days after he received his first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine on January 16.
After meeting the parents of Ravnish, Khairy said the Health Ministry wants to conduct more tests on internal tissue samples that may need to be sent abroad for further examination. In a statement, he said that all tests conducted will be discussed among forensic experts at a peer review session next Monday. He urged the public to respect the family's privacy and to stop spreading fake news about the issue. Ravnish parents believe their son died from COVID-19 vaccination because he didn't have any underlying disease and was never hospitalized before his death.
The vaccinated travel lane VTL by air between Malaysia and Singapore is being expanded to include serving the Penang-Singapore route. The VTL will start on March 16.
Transport Minister Datuk Sri Wee Ka Siong said that both governments have reached a mutual agreement on the expansion of the VTL initiative. Vaccinated travellers who travel under participating airlines will not need to serve quarantine upon arrival. Wee said the sale of VTL air tickets will begin soon as possible. Singapore, meanwhile, expanded its VTL to include Bali and all Indian cities.
In other news, Pakatan Harapan launched its manifesto for the Johor elections today with a promise to conduct a redelineation exercise and to give equal funds to all assemblymen. Among other initiatives, the party will also enact the anti-hopping bill if it forms the next state government.
PH will also work towards a full reopening of Johor's border with Singapore and to revive the tourism industry in the state. PH said it aims to revive the Johor Health Card scheme and implement an affordable housing program for Johorians. It also promised to improve mental health services and provide tuition vouchers for students whose education were affected due to the pandemic. Barisan Nasional in its manifesto had also pledged to give all assemblymen equal allocation should it form the next Johor government and to conduct a redelineation exercise if it attained a 2/3 majority.
The federal government announces an additional 15 billion ringgit for flood mitigation projects between 2023 and 2030. This was more than the 1 billion ringgit allocation set aside under the 12 Malaysia Plan. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob says the budget was approved by Cabinet in light of the recent floods.
Meanwhile, Sabri said that the Cabinet has agreed to go ahead with the MRT3 project. It will also improve execution of the Sabah and Sarawak Pan-Borneo Highway. This involves 19 additional work packages involving 367 kilometers across 5 years. He said progress on the highway is currently at 52% and is estimated to be completed by October 2024. Updates on the Pan-Borneo and MRT3 projects have been much awaited by the local construction industry, whom he said will benefit the most, following an absence of newly sanctioned large-scale projects in recent years.
Ericsson has asserted that its 5G contract with Digital Nasional Berhad DNB was won fairly and based on merit. In a statement, the Swedish telecommunications giant also said it was committed to ensuring that the DNB network becomes a showcase of the best that 5G can deliver in the region.
The 5G contract, according to DNB in July 2021, was awarded following the strictest standards of governance as facilitated by EY Consulting. DNB had said Ericsson's offer was judged to be the most competitive as it ranked first in all three key components of the tender evaluation criteria, namely technical aspects with regard to overall 5G technology deployment. The second was commercial, which covered financing proposal and total cost of ownership, while the third was the socio-economic impact.
We'll be right back after the break.
Cuaca panas menyebabkan kelumomo, minyak dan kegatalan? Clearman 100% untuk para lelaki. Teknologi anti kelumomo 3 kali ganda. Tiada kelumomo, minyak atau kegatalan. Dingin pada kulit kepala. Clearman terbukti menewaskan kelumomo.
Selamat datang ke yang mana satu idaman you. Jika anda ada RM109, mana satu yang anda mahu? 90 saluran Astro atau internet laju? Persoalannya, kenapa you kena pilih kalau semuanya ada dengan bundle Jimat, internet laju dan 90 saluran Astro hanya RM109 sebulan sahaja? Kan? Call 03-7481-3000 sebelum promosi habis.
The idea of peaceful coexistence, but how particularly a country like Malaysia can bring this forward?
It has been recognized for having moderated certain conflict situations.
It's a reality that you can pick up on almost any topic.
ASEAN means something, that ASEAN has a future. That's what's missing.
Catch Focus and Continuity featuring roundtable discussions Sundays at 10 p.m. on Astro AWANI.
Welcome back. On to news in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had accused Russia of nuclear terrorism after a fire broke out at nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe. The complex came under attack from Russian forces early Friday morning. Ukrainian emergency services said the fire had been extinguished, and according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, essential equipments at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant were unaffected from the fire, with no change in radiation levels. Russia's seizure of the nuclear power plant has heightened fears about lack of access to radiation data and the potential for a nuclear accident in Ukraine. Zelensky appealed to Europe for help following the attack. He also called on Russian President Vladimir Putin to have a direct meeting with him, while more than 1 million people have fled Ukraine since the start of the invasion 9 days ago. Both Ukrainian and Russian negotiators have agreed to a tentative plan to create a humanitarian corridor. Meanwhile, for days now, residents of Kiev have been bracing for a massive Russian military convoy to arrive for an assault. But it appears that it largely stalled, believed due to logistical challenges. Latest satellite images show that the convoy is about 25 kilometers away from Kiev, the largest central target of Moscow's invasion.
Apart from fuel and food shortages, the 65-kilometer-long convoy is plagued with weather and mud challenges too, making it difficult for the Russians to go off-road and make progress along other routes. U.S. intelligence suggests that Ukrainian troops have been targeting the convoy with ground fire, striking vehicles at the front, essentially creating a roadblock. Although the convoy appears to be vulnerable to air assault sitting on a highway, officials believed any Ukrainian attacks on the convoy may be limited because of Russia's air defense systems and screening forces. They also warned that while the logistical challenges had stalled the Russians' advance on Kiev, Moscow has so much military combat power that it will adjust and overcome such setbacks eventually.
South Korea started early voting today ahead of the presidential election on 9th March amid a spike in COVID-19 cases. Up to 1 million people who tested positive for the virus are expected to cast their ballots.
With more than 800,000 in isolation and nearly 800 in hospital ICUs, the government decided to accommodate infected voters and revise the election law last month. People infected or in quarantine can still walk in or take taxis or ambulances to polling stations in order to vote in isolated booths. The Omicron spike of the past week is affecting the voting as it drives cases to record highs, with another record of daily cases and deaths reported on Friday. Voters are choosing a replacement for Liberal President Moon Jae-in, who cannot run for re-election due to being term limited.
Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, two of its largest consumer retail chains have started rationing some food and drug items in an effort to curb panic buying that has plagued the city over the past week. A surge in COVID cases has sent residents stocking up on supplies due to fears of a citywide lockdown.
Supermarket chain Park & Shop announced limits of 5 items per customer on staples such as rice, canned food and toilet paper, while pharmacy Watsons put the same limits on cold and fever medication. Hong Kong officials have repeatedly urged people against panic buying this week, saying supplies were adequate. Chief Executive Khairy has said her government had no plans for a complete lockdown as it rolls out compulsory COVID-19 testing of the city's 7.4 million residents. New cases in Hong Kong surged over 56,000 on Thursday.
Now, the pandemic has underscored the need for businesses to not only digitize workflows, but move them to cloud. Cloud migration, however, can be challenging for small and medium enterprises with limited budgets and resources. So is moving to cloud now a necessity or a nice to have for SMEs?
Most of the time, CEOs and business leaders, they come to us with a requirement wanting to have an ERP. But most of it comes when it comes to culture, whether their staff is ready for the change. So most of the time, the staff will prefer the current technology, which they have been used to for a very long time. And in Malaysia, we have many homegrown software which can be positioned at a very low price. However, this software is not comprehensive enough to give them a mature rollout holistically. So they can implement a cheaper solution, but it's not all-encompassing or without best practices. So the idea is around change and also cost.
Cloud technologies are no longer out of reach for small businesses. What is crucial, he says, is for companies to implement a change management strategy with realistic targets and steps to take in their digital transformation journey.
Cloud, depending on how you approach the implementation. So you can do a phased approach, which then costs can be distributed across the timeline. You can go with a big bang approach where you implement the whole enterprise suite at one go. Or you can have a fixed scope, fixed cost project where you identify objectives that will be achieved within a short term, then slowly ramping up. So it really depends on your agenda. So it can be very expensive, or at the same time can be very affordable. But we should look at costs as not just monetary, but the use of resources, time, expertise, and also the ability of giving up certain resource for the sake of the company growth. So they can choose not to go to cloud, but the digital transformation agenda means how they can leverage software and tools to be more efficient. So it's not really about cloud, but how then you match your current company culture towards the latest innovation and how it can leverage and scale. So cloud is basically an environment where this tool sits in.
175 nations endorse a landmark resolution at UNEA5 to end plastic pollution by developing a legally binding agreement by 2024. We speak to our guests about how the treaty aims to address plastic pollution throughout its life cycle. That's coming up on Consider This. And that's all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on astroawani.com, or you can also download the Astro AWANI app. I'm Soraya Mia. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.